30 already here, so that feels like a good start point. Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. Got the NHC December webinar. As I said earlier, quite packed agenda, and nice to see everyone as well. If we can just mute if we're not speaking, and any questions, either put them in the chat bar, and I don't know if you can maybe just keep an eye on the chat bar, or raise your hands and we'll come to you after the presentations. And just for the presenters who are here, just to be wary of the agenda's pretty packed today, and just keep an eye on the time, please. Should we start off with the NEL Workplace Awards? Steph,
did you want me to pick it up, Nadeem, or are you going to do it? So if we just move the slide on. Yeah,
we just need to move the slide on. So last week there were some NEL Workforce Awards. So that's the kind of 7 boroughs locally, and Newham done pretty well actually. I think there's about 13 awards, and Newham got 5 of them. So well done everyone locally. Can we get the next slide?
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not moving. The team will be trying to get it to move.
Sorry, what can we see at the moment?
We're seeing the title slide, Steph.
Oh, that's strange. Okay, bear with.
It's blank from my side.
Just quickly go for the award. So Wax was the first one for Special Recognition Award for his great work around vaccination. So we know what he done in COVID. He led it amazingly, and he's also been doing the same with polio, and it's really helped us be near the top of the charts when it comes to vaccination rates. Special mention also to Adipana and Dr. C. and Patel's practice, who've kind of got 100% in polio recently, and that was recognised as well. Health Innovation Award went to Helen Page, who's part of the NHC team and the roving team, so they work around health inequalities. Well done, Helen, and your team. First for Health and Bhupinder got the use of technology to improve working life. So we know all the work Bhupinder's done over the years with IT and being our IT lead. So great work there, well done, First for Health. And the social prescribing team, Northwest 2, so that I believe that's Anil's PCN Above and Beyond General Practice Award. So well done to the social prescribing team. And the EDI award came to NHC. So well done, Karen, and your team. And there's just 4 or so honourable mentions: Health Innovation for NWT, Diversity Inclusion for Lucy Langford and Sultan Armin, Above and Beyond Wood Grange Practice Team, and we know they're an excellent rated CQC practice, and Salma at Greengate and Meenakshi for individual leadership. So well done, Newham. Anything you want to add, Karen?
Just to say how lovely it was to see the recognition in Newham, and that, you know, there was such a tremendous positive vibe from Newham delegates. It was lovely.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't be there. Can we move on? Next one is selecting Newham representative for the Provider Collaborative. So this is the GP Provider Collaborative, which is a North East London 7-borough representative. I think they're going to have a few. Tammy will give us a bit more information, but it was to discuss and look at the process for trying to get a new representative in the North East London Provider Collaborative. I'll hand over to you, Tammy.
So apologies, I have had the craziest morning, so I'm hoping you can all hear me. So I don't know, Karen, did you have a slide for this? Because we didn't manage to catch up. But I think essentially it's around having an expression of interest to sit within that collaborative role, and basically what I wanted us to have was a transparent process about how we, potentially chose a representation across Newham. And I know that it was discussed at the CDs meeting, and some of the CDs were there, and that NHC very kindly sort of sent out an email to the CDs and suggested a proposal about what that process could look like. But I felt it was important for us to bring it here so that that everybody had the opportunity to suggest either whether we went with one particular candidate or whether we were going to send a few from Newham to represent us in that role. I just think it's really important that if we really want a strong, unified GP voice, that we look across our leadership and our GPs across Newham and make sure that we are utilising all of that skill mix and not only going towards the usual suspects who are very willing to support us, but I just felt that the process needed to be more transparent. And then whoever was going to be our representative, that they had our full backing and that we had a means of communicating our sort of concerns so that they could take it to that collaborative. So I don't know if anyone else has any sort of thoughts around that. I think that initially there was quite a tight time frame, but what I understand now is that we have until the 16th of December to have that expression of interest, and then after that there will be a voting process, and we're not quite sure how many votes will happen for the individuals that we put forward. Oh, you're now telling me that there are 2. Oh, brilliant, great. So the information has been updated, brilliant. So I think what's really important is that, one, we want to make sure that across each of the PCNs, if we're going to have 2 votes, that we utilise those votes, and that 2, that there's a transparent process about choosing that the people that we put forward. So I don't know if you want to move on to the next slide that Karen you shared with the CDs. Yeah, so this is kind of the time frames. If the slides will be shared afterwards, I just think it's really important to make sure that we've only got a week to have those expression of interest moving forward, and then that the voting process will open at the end of December, and then we'll have until the 6th of January to do that online voting. So please do have a mechanism in place for you to have had those discussions within your PCN before that time, and hopefully we will be able to get a Newham representative on that board. And I think in the interest of time, I probably won't say anything else. We'll share the slides, and then please do, if you've got any questions, I think it's about an open discussion moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, so North East London is 7 boroughs, and I think there's about 2 or 3 positions. I think 2 clinical, 1 management position in North East London for a primary care representative on this large group. We've got the largest population. I think we've got a high number of networks, 2 votes per PCN. If we get behind 1 person, preferably, and you can have an internal Newham process to look at who that possibly could be, but capabilities are important, Tammy. Then it means that we can have someone hopefully on that group representing our interests.
I don't think we're disagreeing. I absolutely agree with you there. Thank you.
Wax?
Yeah, just to say these guys are right. It's super important, this one. We always talk about representation of voice at that main table. The main table is no longer Newham, as we know. It's North East London. We're not in CCG land anymore. Things have moved on, and right now, at this moment in time, I don't believe we have any kind of representation at the ICB, not unless anything's changed in the last little while. And this will be an opportunity to make sure cementing something concrete where we can get Newham's voice heard. Despite all of the fantastic stuff we do, we need support with lots of things. There's LIS equalisation, there's estates, there's IT and infrastructure and everything else. So all of those conversations need to be had. We need to have conversations around integration with our partners at the acute collaborative, the community collaborative and the mental health collaborative, just to make sure that we can get the support for the transformation we need in Newham. So I can't stress how important this is. Please do spend a few minutes thinking about this, and do feedback to your CDs, Karen, Nadeem and Al, Tammy, so we can make this happen for Newham.
Yeah, Karen, thanks for that. Can we make sure it goes to the CDs and they disseminate it to their practices and hopefully come back with some names? Is that okay?
Yeah, the CDs have already had the information, but I will, all of the slides and information will be in this information pack coming out to practices from today's session.
Thank you, Karen. Imrana.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Just a really quick question. So this collaborative, how does that feed up to kind of ICS, ICB? Just so I understand. Thanks.
It just sits below it, Imrana. So it just, I'm not exactly sure, but it sits somewhere below the primary care collaborative, which are kind of sub boards of the ICS. So it's quite high up.
Yeah, it's the representative voice for all the providers in general practice, if you like. So in the same way as there's a mental health collaborative that represents the providers for the mental health teams, this is the primary care provider voice, and as such it's the strongest voice for primary care, and then you'll know in parallel there's a structure that sits for Newham where each of the different pieces come together and are just about Newham. So they're sort of parallel.
But it's also a bit iterative, so it's changing all the time, but it's pretty high up. I think that's probably it, to be honest. I think we don't really need to say too much more, Karen. Is that all right? Should we move on to Maria? Hi, Maria.
Hi.
Maria, I'll hand over to you and you're going to talk to us a bit about Keeping Well.
Well, it is 1:45, the exact time, so perfect. Thank you so much. So I've got 1:45 and I will absolutely do my best to stick to 10 minutes. So I'm Maria Healy from the Keeping Well NEL Wellbeing Hub, and I'd just like my colleague to introduce herself as well. You all right, Joe?
Hello, I'm Jo, and I look after engagement for the Keeping Well NEL Hub, which is the ICS Workforce Wellbeing Hub.
Thank you. So we are all about workforce wellbeing. We are all about you. Can I have the next slide, please? So who we are and who we serve. Some of you may know this, but I'm just going to really go through this swiftly. We were set up as a result of, the pandemic, where it was identified we really need to pay more attention to workforce wellbeing. You spend all your time caring for others. It's time for care for you, and that's what we're here for. We're a free service. Think of us a little bit more as an enhanced employee assistance program, that some of you may have employee assistance programs already in place and some may not. So we are this free confidential listening service, and we also signpost to different services, and we're open Monday to Saturday 8 till 8, and you are part of one of our our key customers. Can I have the next slide, please? So why wellbeing matters? I think most of this know this stuff. There is research after research and evidence, but for me, there is all this evidence is about taking action, isn't it? And doing something with this. So you can see, why is it good for your business? We know it attracts and retains staff. We know there's a big connection between better, higher quality care and patient satisfaction, better attendance at work, leading to happier, healthier staff who are in the workplace. Now, when we talk about return on investment, we're not asking you for any money at all. Perhaps your investment is time. Your investment is allow staff to attend, and I'm going to go through all the different events, webinars, training that we offer. But think about that. It isn't about how much money you're paying for this stuff. It's all free to you, but allowing your staff to take part in some of this, or even other things like staff taking regular breaks, as simple as that sometimes, and what support and resources you have in your workplace. We know the environment in terms of wellbeing is really important. Can I have the next slide, please? So I'm not going to go in this in detail because I've got a shorter slot this time, but this was a piece of a survey done by the British Medical Association back in 2020, and they came out with about 10 recommendations here And what you'll find is as I'm talking through, and you will get these slides, is we are meeting a lot of these recommendations that were put forward by the BMA in terms of workforce wellbeing. There's a couple that are sort of out of our control, at staff who need to take time off and would like to work flexibly. That's about you and your business and how you operate in that way. But you will see as we move on, we meet a lot of this stuff. Next one, please. So how can we help you? So I said earlier about the online live chat. This is a safe, confidential space. And what this is, although we are funded by the NHS, we are independent from you as an employer. So we want to really build this trust that your staff can reach out for help. Our wellbeing advisors really understand the challenges of working in health and care, and they are here to support you. For example, if you went onto our website now, an actual human being would pop up and say, "How can I help you today?" We are here to help. People can go anonymous as well if they don't want to, they don't feel like they want to give their name, but none of this information is passed on. We want people to really trust us. The other bit, lots of events and training, you know, from menopause, Schwartz rounds, leadership support circles, lots of training, wellbeing ambassador program. We are offering for free the Royal Society of Public Health Level 2 qualification for your workforce. Lots of self-help resources as well. You know, if people are thinking about their well-being, they're perhaps thinking, you know, maybe I'll do a little bit of research first. So there's lots there. Can I have the next slide, please? I won't go too much through this, but actually it's Jo that's put this together very well about what it would look like if you did reach out for help. What would be your steps? What we're here to do is a walk alongside staff to help them navigate through getting some help. And that may mean seeking therapy. That may mean seeking counselling or other sort of, you know, therapeutic help. But it might be some support and signposting to somewhere as well. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about what some of our customers have said, but I won't read through each one because you're going to get the slides. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our peer support program. It is one of the recommendations that came out through the BMA research and others around having a peer support program. So we have a whole training pathway. It's about being a Keeping Well NEL wellbeing ambassador. This training is free, and we will actually reimburse you for attending the training. We will pay up to £17.50 an hour for your staff to attend. The basic training's about sort of 2.5, 3 hour morning session, and you can then claim the money back for your staff to attend. And there's other things you can do. If it's okay, I'll take the question at the end. If that's okay, I'll go through the slides and take it, but thank you. You can see there's a leaflet on your page there. We can also send out lots of leaflets and posters to you. I know some of you would have received our pull-up banner as well. Next slide, please. This is a little bit about our self-help resources. We've developed these recently, and you know, sometimes when people, like I said before, are looking for help, they may just do a little bit of research themselves. How can I help myself? Or using Dr. Google one evening, you know, but actually I'd really sway you towards using the Keeping Well NEL website. Please take time to have a little look and see what's there for you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what's new? So what we've developed and we'll be launching in 2023, we've got a dedicated wellbeing newsletter for primary care, and we've already got a couple of stories. What's really important for us is that we hear from you and about your challenges and stories about what's going on in your industry. So we know we're putting the right support and resources in place for you. So the newsletter's coming out soon. It's Jo and her team that have worked tirelessly to put this together. We're happy to send it out in print. You can have it electronically. You can have as many copies as you want. So please contact me. There's a contact us on the website, or come to me directly, where I would be more than happy to help. We run a quarterly summit. And that summit this year in January, it's called It's All About You. We're sort of following, you know, the NHS campaign, the One You campaign, and we've turned it into It's All About You. And we've got, look, prioritising your well-being. We've got some really good stuff around stress awareness and emotional health. We've got a great live cookery demonstration about healthy eating on a budget. We've got some really good stuff from a company called Finwell, who are going to be doing something on financial well-being. We've got a live exercise session, a little desk-a-size with one of our instructors, and we've got a really beautiful mindfulness session for you. The other thing I wanted to mention about, and I mentioned about, you know, the high numbers of females in this industry and average age and things like that. We're running a menopause program, many webinars, but also menopause advocates. So the idea is for us to be sustainable and self-sufficient. I'm a menopause advocate. I can come along and deliver 30-minute sessions to your staff about colleagues and also to line managers around that duty of care and that legal obligation we have to look after our people when they're going through the difficulties. So they're just a few things. And like I say, we are more than happy to provide leaflets to put in your staffing areas. Okay, next one. Okay, so I just wanted to bring this up really, and this isn't for us to have an open discussion around this, but I just want to leave you with some food for thought. So we know there's barriers to uptake and engagement from this sector, as there is in, I work a lot with the care sector as well, with care homes, home care. So what are they? And I think what's coming back is really time, releasing staff, time, you know, workload and all the stuff. How can we support this? What can we do? And how can you and we, how can we encourage uptake from us? And what part will you play in this? We would normally do a sort of a share and shape session with different little focus groups to really, we want to co-design, co-produce our resources for you. We've got a heap load of stuff on our website, and we really would encourage you to take time to do something, you know, with that. Next one, I think I've done 10 minutes. Next one. This is how to contact us with just the 10 minutes, live chat, anonymous, request a call back, text us, and there's all the social media things there. So
the same time, book it for same time for
10 minutes, and I've got a question. Is there a question?
Yeah, we've got Kavita. Hi, Kavita.
Hi, thanks, Nadine. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll be really quick. It's just to say we're really thankful for the work that you do. We've got a really, I'm the Newham Training Hub clinical. I don't think I've met you or Joe before, but I've worked closely with Vlad, who I think is your clinic. Yes, your clinical. Is he your clinical manager? Yeah.
He's our director now.
He's your director.
Transformation director.
Oh, fantastic! I didn't know that. So yeah, so we work really closely with Vlad, and just to say that on our Newham Training Hub website, we managed to embed your chat function. So that's great. So please do go onto the Newham Training Hub website, and we've got lots of information about Well NEL there. There's some particular things that I just wanted to highlight. So one is, we've been working with Vlad on doing a wellbeing ambassador per borough. It's a proposal we put out, so that expression of interest is going to go out soon. And it was about this, actually, how do we get the comms out to primary care and really get primary care to know about the programs that you're offering. So they will be a key link person, and that EOI will be going out soon, and it will be open to, you know, anybody can come forward to that. Very keen to see, you know, either a clinician or a practice manager or a social prescriber coming forward to being that wellbeing voice for Newham as well. The other thing is the Schwartz rounds and the trauma-informed care that we're collaborating very strongly on as well. So that should be coming out quite soon as well. I just wanted to also, Imrana, just to embarrass you a little bit, celebrate Imrana's paper that's just come out on wellbeing recently, and it's hasn't come out recently, but it's going to be published soon. So, and I think Imrana's got a hand up, so it'd be really good to get your thoughts on that as well, Imrana. Thank you.
Imrana?
Thanks, Kavita, for that. So yeah, thanks, Maria. Obviously, we know each other.
We do.
And just for context, for you know, obviously I was the wellbeing lead within the training hub previously, but you know, I'm not in that role at the moment. And through that, you know, I was part of the steering group for developing Keeping Well NEL. So just to say, obviously, I'm an advocate of all the great work that you know, the Keeping Well NEL team is doing, and you know, it's been well resourced, and hence, and you've used that effectively. There's lots of kind of excellent I think, resources available. The only one point I wanted to make is that well-being can't be done to you. It has to be something that's grown intrinsically. And I think, for primary care, I think it does still feel that way, that it's being done to us. So I think having that, intrinsic work, again, not to kind of fly my own flag, but just kind of the work that we did right at the beginning within primary care, with Karen, with all of us during the pandemic. I think just that point that it has to be organic, it has to be intrinsic, rather than being something that, oh, this is what you do.
Thanks, Imrana. And of course it goes without saying, with all the increased stresses and even post-pandemic, and now with Group A coming along, the stresses and the impact on our well-being is greater. I suppose there's a lot of resources out there. There's Training Hub, there's yourselves, there's a lot of other national and London-wide stuff. And I suppose the other challenge is, how do we get people to do it? So the offer's fine, but how do we go the next step and have our colleagues engaging and recognizing, first of all, and then engaging with the well-being? Tammy?
So I think, my comment follows on from that, and thank you very much for this work. I think it's amazing. And I went to our LMC conference, and well-being and workforce are definitely up there. And it is that it's great to have the intervention that we're building, but actually how do we balance that between the ever-going ask from patients, and how do we take patients along with us to recognise that we're not robots and there's a human being that's sort of consulting the whole time. And I think that it's probably that we need to be doing a bit more. There's a lot of negativity around GPs, around the NHS, never being able to get an appointment, but that balance between how we can still keep ourselves well, so put your own oxygen mask on first if there's an emergency on a plane, and truly getting our patients to understand that it's, and I think that's the issue. And I really hope that and it's lovely to hear that you're going out to all of our colleagues, because I think our reception staff especially get such a lot of abuse, and it's because people just don't understand how to navigate the system. And it's not that we don't want to help, it's just that there is a finite resource. So I think it's really important to feed in, and this is a wonderful piece of work, so please do carry on, but we need as a system to really embed this and take our patients along with us.
Yeah, so the next step really is how we start engaging our colleagues into this. So you've got Mental Health Lead, Training Hub, yourself, LMC, and Maria, and I suppose that's something for you lot to think about, really. Is that okay? So maybe we can have you back and get an update in a future webinar. But thank you, Maria, for coming down. And we'll disseminate this information and the offer for Ambassador and the menopause training as well.
Thank you so much. Been a privilege to be here today, and I hope to see you really soon. So
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
So we move on to being safe in the workplace. We've got our local police constable, PC Ahmed. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. PC Ahmed. I'm the Faith and Community Liaisons Officer for Newham. I wouldn't be your local officer. It will be broken down into whichever safer neighbourhood teams you've got. If you do want to know who they are, send me an email. I'll tell you who they are. Okay, so let's crack on. Being safe in the workplace. I know a little bit about some of the issues that you will have in the workplace. My wife's a GP. It's something we discuss quite often. We're not talking about, your desk space not being the right height against, getting a pertinent strain injury and your risks. Your risks that you face are going to be very similar to what we face as police officers, which is predominantly going to be unknown risks. You don't know who is that person that's coming through. Although you may know a bit of the history, the medical history, and may know something about the personal life if you've, seen the child growing up over the years. But the risk will be similar. You won't know who they are. You don't know what risk they possessed. They may have had a bad day. Infection is always going to be an issue for you, I guess, especially during this time and new variants. Mental health issues. It's quite often, sometimes I come across people who seem fine and well up and until I use the wrong word. it's triggered them off, and now I'm tussling with them on the floor. Weapons, I wouldn't worry about it so much on your side, but it's something to consider. And quite often, I'm sure you would have experienced when people get upset and angry because you're not giving them what they think you should be giving them. Language barrier, in some certain incidents, for me, has turned into an argument of some form. We'll go to the next one, abuse. So verbalists, I like the word. It's something the youth use it. I used to work in colleges prior to taking on this role. Verbalist is basically someone who's mouthing off, right? In my early days, this is my 6th year as a police officer. It's quite black and white. For example, I would want to challenge all behavior, all inappropriate behavior, quite often leading into an altercation, a verbal altercation. And ultimately, for me, my experience of it was a bit of pride. I needed to be right. You're all experts in what you do. I'm sure a lot of them make threats to go private, and I'm sure you're not too upset to see them go if that's the case. But verbal abuse can constitute a criminal offence. Just give us a call if that's the case. Obviously, if anything sort of racial remark of any form, it's going to be classed as a homophobic incident. Racist incident, a hate crime incident. Hate crime is something we take quite seriously. I do see, I am aware that there have been an increase of abuse, and I am aware generally it tends to be the receptionists that get the abuse, maybe because they don't recognize the authority. And I don't know, it's not nice, it's happening. Go to the next one, physical abuse. All right, that's even more of a crime, okay? It's just that simple. Common assault, it doesn't have to be hands-on. It could be simple as shouting or making threatening words. That itself can be considered as a common assault. GBH, grievous bodily harm, maximum sentence 5 years. But just to demonstrate how sort of the CPS or they take it seriously, if that GBH was racially or religiously aggravated, maximum term is increased to 7 years. If it's committed with intent, it can have the maximum sentence of life imprisonment, which is the same as murder. This shows that how seriously that the law system takes it. It's something we don't tolerate it. Physical abuse in any form is not to be tolerated. If it happens, let us know. Give me a call. Okay, a few things to consider. In your waiting rooms, what do you have that they can use? Do you have a coat hanger they can pick up and secure chairs? Pens, rolled up magazine they can use to abuse as a weapon. I don't say it just to sort of, change everything and pin everything down and holster everything down. It's something to be aware of. As an officer, it's something I'm always aware of when I'm going into any new situation. I wouldn't expect you to have that mindset, because your mindset should be different in terms of getting close and personal, getting to know people, and understanding whichever diagnosis they need. Okay, so you guys are probably amongst the best there is in terms of investigators. I know sometimes getting the information you need to make the diagnosis can be pulling teeth. You are very good at reading body language, but go with your instinct. Every single situation that I've been, apart from some opportunistic robberies and theft, most often than not, it's 90% plus of people say, I knew something was going to happen, or it didn't feel right. It's usually your logical mind that's telling you, don't worry about it, and then something does happen. If it doesn't feel right, just be extra vigilant and create a bit of space. When I approach somebody, it's not always in the criminal matters, I'm just to help people, but if it's an unknown, I will create distance, if we're talking about meter and a half, it's close enough to communicate, it's far enough that if they wanted to attack me, I've got a bit of space. I know you have a panic button. My wife tells me quite often people would press it, especially when they're first in a new place and everybody comes running in. What has been the response of your colleagues? Is it something that you practice similar to a fire drill? Is it something you should practice as a fire drill? And if something was going to go on, how would you respond? Is that something that's discussed? Is that something that you've had a dry run with? Worst case scenario, someone gets in your face. I'm sorry, I am in a library. I've been out and about various meetings. This is the best compromise I could make. Yes, worst case, someone gets in your face, you are protected by law, common law, to hit them, right? Someone gets in your face, hit them as hard as you can, middle of the face, on the nose. Don't continue hitting them. That would constitute a law. We'd have to come and arrest you for it. But if you had a genuinely held belief that someone was or is going to harm you, hit him, right? Hit him, get out of there, create some space, lock him in, get out of there, call the police, or press the panic alarm, get more people. Some of you may use public transport. This is something I've worked with college kids for 3 years now. It's something predominantly it happens to them just because many of them don't have access to vehicle. Awareness, quite simply, just be aware. People are walking around buried, their heads buried into the phones. They got AirPods on, unaware what's going around them, watching videos. Standing by the bus stop next to the road, when your hands down, phone in your hand, someone goes past a moped, which is now changed to the electric scooters now. They're going, grab it and get off with it. You won't even know who's done it. I like to do when I'm out and about. When someone's looking at the phone, I will step in the way, just especially when I'm in uniform, just to prove my point. So literally, they will walk into me without realizing. So, okay, you've just, well, where is your awareness?
I'm so sorry. There's too much background noise. I'm going to mute everybody, so you'll have to unmute yourself, Ahmed. Sorry.
So everybody able to hear me now? I'm not on mute.
That's why I continue. Sorry, just carry on.
Okay, all right. Yeah, look, yet again, I'm very, very sorry. I couldn't do it from an office. I've been out and about in meetings. Yeah, just be aware. Try not to travel alone if you can. I know it's not always possible, especially for locoming. And yet again, go with your instinct. If it doesn't feel right, what can you do? Can you go to a close by shop where it's lit and it's likely to have CCTV? Go to the shopkeeper. Listen, I don't feel right. I think this guy's following me. Just be aware. Okay. If someone wants it, want to make threats to you, give it to them. It's not worth it. I've got very few that it happens. I have some people who get involved in a fight, get stabbed or injured. If they want your phone, give it to them. It's not worth it. There's only one of you. You're not replaceable. The public need you, right? Although I know they're complaining about not getting enough appointments, but they still need you. All right, so there was some study done. I can't think what it is top of my head, and they've asked perpetrators, robbers, why did you pick this person as a victim? It's not. They would pick anyone who seems not confident, who seems not organized. For example, be confident, walk with a purpose. Don't sort of dilly-dally around. That will apparently that deters them. The idea is to make yourself less of a target. If you are expected home at a certain time, do you have someone at home that's waiting for you? Can you share your location on WhatsApp, for example, especially if you're out for a night out with a friend, a partner, or a group of friends, to show them where you are? Take a cab. I know times are hard with inflation and cost of living prices, but I would imagine most GPs could afford a cab here and there if needed. Do you need to take that shortcut down an alleyway? It's going to save you 5 minutes, but it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Someone waiting there. You can't see who's there. Yep. So try to travel not alone. I guess that would help. Briefly touch on that. You think you're being followed? Flag down a bus. Buses have a panic button. Go to a shopkeeper. Tell the shopkeeper. Cross the road. That's what we've got. Called tradecraft in a covert world of policing. So for argument's sake, one of the techniques would go around as soon as we take a left or right, we'll find a shop and quickly go into the shop to see if we're being followed. It's not something I'd expect you to know about. Could you check the mirrors in the rear wing mirrors of cars that's walking around to see a description of that person? Cross the road. Yeah, I think someone's running across the road. Okay, he's crossed the road. Okay, I'm going to cross it again. He's crossed it again. Okay, cross-checking. Oh, okay. Now you could be a bit sure he's following you. Be wary about going to your house. Really, if you're someone, maybe they're trying to find out where you live. Can you knock on a door? Pretend that you're going into another house or a neighbour's door that lives close by. Not literally a neighbour that was very close to home. Yet again, go to a shop, stay on lit areas. Shout. That's the technique that we use. Vocal shocking. I think that's a term. We shout as loud as we can, get back. It does work. It shocks people. And it does take the confidence to do it, I guess. If you're wrong, okay, you look a bit foolish, but potentially, you've lost nothing, have you? It's stayed safe. This has caused me a bit of issues with some of the colleges that I've worked with, especially some of the females being followed by males. Lanyards. Okay, it's going to have where you work on it. It's potentially going to have your name on it. You'd be surprised the amount of information that you can attain from someone's name. So does it need to be in show? I know you're not thinking about it. You've had a long shift. Tuck it away. Put it in your handbag. Okay. Yep. Get in your car. How many people get into a car and start looking around their handbags, or spend a few minutes sorting whatever they need to sort out? As soon as you get in your car, lock your car from when you're inside. This is something we do routinely as police officers. I do it in my normal life also. It's not because I'm paranoid. It's just good practice. Previously, we used to have officers being targeted where people would take them out the cars and give them a good hiding. So one way to have a level barrier of some form is go inside and lock the door of your car as soon as you get in. Right? Then take as much time as you need to do what you need to do. Having your keys ready. So if you're on public transport, getting in your car, maybe you live on a busy road, have your house keys ready. Walk straight in, right? My wife, I can hear her outside for 10 minutes, fumbling around in a handbag. Yes, I am a worst case scenario person. That's my day-to-day life. But for me, I don't even miss a step once I'm getting in. My house is quite secluded. There's not a lot of foot flow, but something to consider. You're reducing and minimizing opportunities for would-be stalkers, robbers, or such. Okay, I'm sorry this has been quite short. I think I'm just under the 15-minute mark. But any issues, any problems, those are my details. Some things you don't understand about the police, give me a call, email me. This is what I'm here for. I will know different officers in different departments that deal with all different forms. It could be domestic violence, sexual offences, child abuse, stalking and harassment, violence against women and girls, honor-based violence. I know you would come across a lot of social issues, and maybe you just want some advice. You don't have to give me any details. If you want some advice about anything, give me a call or email me, and I'll get you the answer. I'll find the right person that can give you the answer.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Thanks for your details as well and information. It's really helpful. Some of the information is really helpful, and I think we can use some of it as practice packs as well in terms of when we're reviewing safety. And we have seen a bit of an increase even recently in terms of physical and aggressive behaviour. Really good, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if we can just we'll ensure that your details are passed to each practice in terms of as our contact.
Please, not just the practices, even your your secretaries or even any of your patients, if they want some advice. That's what I'm there for. Friends and families, any questions, any issues, give me a call and or email me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming down. That's really helpful, and we'll ensure that information goes out. Cost of living, we're running a little bit late. Cost of living, hi Anne. I'll hand over to you.
All right, let me just put my headphones in. Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Brilliant. Okay. For those who don't know, my name is, just looking at the list. My name is Anne, and I work in the public health team. And one of the things that I do at the moment is coordinate the council's cost of living response. And we have started to drop crisis from the title because unfortunately we think it's longer than a crisis. It's not a nice reason, but that is the case. So, and I have a few slides to share, and then what I will do is send those slides over so they can be circulated. And sorry, remind me how much time I have, because I don't want to use it proportionally.
About 10 minutes.
Perfect. Okay, so I think some people, and also I was just going to give you a little bit of an update about what we're doing about the cold in the council as well, if that's helpful, and a little bit of what we've done around Strep A, if that's helpful. So why don't I start with those two first, so that I don't mean out of the way, because I know they're very serious. So in terms of Strep A, our public health response has two parts to it. It obviously has a health protection response, and that is proportionate to the demand, to the reality of the levels of Strep A, and in particular the levels of invasive Group A strep. So not massive, right? Because the levels of Strep A aren't, and IGAS is not. I'm not sure if the hit them in the face is relevant to strep. I don't know. As Karen knows, I've had my own moment with strep this weekend where I was going, I think my child is going to die at 2 in the morning, but he's not. He has bronchitis. Anyway, so there's a health protection side to this, which is not my space, and my colleagues, Adi and others, are leading on, and is proportionate to the scale of the response. And I know that Adi's interested in your views on things like antibiotics. There's then a perception, and joking aside about Karen knowing that I had a complete panic spiral on Saturday about my 8-year-old. We are hearing from community members, including the COVID champions who have now become community health champions, that there's a lot of nervousness. And I'm 99% sure I don't need to tell you any of you that, because you're getting it on your phones. And so while we had initially not put much out into the public domain because we didn't want to add to that nervousness, what we have done now, and maybe what I should do is forward this to whoever the right person is so you can see. I'll send it to you, Karen. We've created an infographic, which is very much, this is not a big risk. This is what to do. And if you do call the GP, please really have the symptoms, because it's really clogging up the system, but that's not the language we've used. Jason, the Director of Public Health, has done a short video saying, I know people are really worried. It's really rare. This is what you do. And we've done very kind of simple key lines. This is very rare. It's treatable with antibiotics. Call 111 or your GP if you're really worried. But remember, there are lots of things going around, and people will need their GP for other things as well. So that has gone out to our Community Health Champion Network, which is a 500+ group of people, which includes all of the elected members in the council as well. And we've asked that to share it. We're not putting it on general council social media at the moment. We have a 900-person strong cost of living distribution list. We're not sending it to that. And I've also sent it to public health colleagues and key colleagues in the council, so in schools and in early years, for them to use as they see fit. So that's what we've done. I know that Jason and Wax had a conversation over the weekend, and I spoke to Jason on Monday, and we were really, I think my orientation on all of this is, how do we help parents calm down? And I can say this confidently as one who's had to do it. Help parents calm down so that as much as possible, the space is available in the health system for people who are really ill. So I hope that's in line with what you as our clinical colleagues would want. So that's Strep A. If a week from now everyone is still really panicky, we might do a public session in partnership with maybe Wax with you and some pediatricians, but we're holding off on that because we think that sends a kind of panic message, because the last time we did public Q&A sessions was COVID. But it may come if you tell us a week from now people are still panicking, and we hear from other community sources that people are still panicking, we may do that as well. Cold. So just so you know about cold, it's cold. SWEP, which is the protocol for supporting rough sleepers, has been activated. So that's I don't know what SWEP stands for, someone else might. That's making sure that rough sleepers are provided with accommodation. And then the government's GOLD process, where senior leaders from across the different parts of the system come together to agree actions, has also been activated. And well, again, from what we're doing from a public health perspective is comms through our networks, and they are how you stay warm and how you get help if how you get help if your boiler is broken, how you get food, and that we have warm havens that are open. So that's our cold response. I'm just thinking, how do we Newham it and make it culture and what practice is doing? I think, Kavita, I think your question about how do we Newhamize it is absolutely right. So the reason we've done an infographic is that's a kind of style we use in Newham. If there's anything that we can do off the back of your conversation from a public health perspective through our channels, or like we have a designer we work with closely through our resources, then really, really happy to be a resource in how you decide to Newhamize things. If you want to do videos as clinical leaders and send them to us and we can send them out through our networks, happy to do that. Like really, use us in whatever way you see fit for what you need. Thank you. So it's probably severe weather emergency protocol.
Where do we, as GPs, send patients for practices and social prescribers send patients if they're struggling with their heating bills, cost of living crisis?
Why don't I forward to Karen the email that's gone out on the cost of living today, and forward it, and she can send it round. And then that neatly brings me on to the whole cost of living presentation as a whole. And I can answer that question more than just the next kind of 10 days of cold, if that's okay. Nadeem, does that work? Okay. So on the cost of living crisis, I'm going to sort of talk through the slides I'll then send, if that makes sense. So we have so it's at the top levels. The mayor has a task force that includes BARTS and NUA, ELFT. It doesn't actually include primary care, and Jason and I have had a couple of discussions about if it should or not, but totally welcome your views on that. There are 4 parts to the response. One is, sorry, shutting my door. One is direct provision, so making sure people have food, they have heat, they have money as much as we can. Also starting to look at clothing, furniture, and other tangible goods people need, and housing in terms of temporary accommodation. So that's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is making sure that residents know everything they're entitled to and are able to access it. And the able to access is really important. And that isn't just kind of technical access, but it's also emotional comfort with accessing support, thinking about stigma. And so in that space, we're doing a couple things. We're putting more resource into our Newham Money, which is our welfare advice. We're doing a very specialist project with ELFT. We just agreed this week around benefits advice for families with children who are neurodisabled. And we are setting up a support team of 5 people. And I always get nervous saying this because I know that the demand for this is going to be massively bigger than the resource we have available. But we are putting a support team together of 5 people who are going to proactively reach out to those we think are most at risk. And those fall into 2 groups. So people who are clinically most at risk from cold and damp, so COPD type conditions, and then people we think are most emotionally at risk, and families. And for that, there's a flag on our data system for families with 3 or more children, and we've chosen 3 because that's where the child benefit that's where child benefit cuts off. That's where other support services cut off. So we're going at a place where resources already really cut off, and we are building a team that will actively engage with people, proactively engage, try to reach out to them and ensure they're taking up all the benefits they're entitled to and all the services that we have locally. And we're really thinking back to Kavita, your question about Newhamizing. We had a discussion about accents and about tone and the kinds of language that you use. We have an expert in behavioral economics in the council. She's advising us. It sounds different if I call you than if Paula calls you than if Kavita you call. And so how are we playing that into this program? And that should be up. We've got the team leader in place, and it will hopefully be up and running by the new year. So that's supporting access. And then we have, particularly led by the mayor, a campaigning aspect to this. So saying to central government that the response is woefully inadequate, or stronger language. And then finally underpinning this with data and evidence to help make sure that we are really putting resources in the places where the resources are needed most. And one of the things we're doing there is trying to expedite something we were already doing, which is to get data around who doesn't take up the benefits they're entitled to, so we can proactively engage with them. So that's the response. We have with Rima and then I'll come, Stephanie, ask you to kind of talk about this as well. But the other thing so as Stephanie says, there's a toolkit that's been developed, which I'll stop in a minute and let Stephanie show you. We've also taken our cost of living one-page infographic, which you should all have received because we have put you all on our distribution list. So let me know if you haven't. Actually, I'll tell you, don't let me know, let Samaya know. But I have created a kind of slide version of that infographic that should work on your screens. And I think Rima and somebody else, I can't remember who is, are testing it. Okay, so Rima, if it's working, then I think we should just distribute it. And what we've done is just take the information for the cost of living infographic and made it a slide. It's a slide that you can stick up on, like in my GP surgery, they have this big screen, which mainly plays the news. We also have 50,000, Imran is testing it. So if Rima says it's working, I think we can get it out. So shall I send it to you, Karen? Is that the best thing to do? And then the other thing is we have 50,000 copies of a leaflet about cost of living in winter that just arrived in the council yesterday. And we'd like to give you those in hard copy. And so they are all in English. Our evidence on translation is that actually translated written material doesn't get used a lot. Translated verbal material gets used more, but I'm happy to be told I'm wrong and try and get some translations. So that's what we're doing, and that's how we are trying to work together.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne. Imran, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to kind of tag on to Anne's excellent presentation about just kind of literally 1 minute about what can we do as GPs. And I think some of you know I was losing a lot of sleep around this a few weeks ago, because you see it with our patients, isn't it, every day, that you give them a prescription but they don't have the money to buy the for the prescription cost. I did a referral for a patient. She couldn't afford the telephone call to make that the appointment. So it is bad out there for our patients. And obviously the response that Newham are doing a fantastic. Thanks, Stephanie, for putting this up. So that was just the context. I just wanted to show everyone this, and hopefully everyone's got it. So this is what kind of I developed with help of public health. Sumaya was really helpful in that, and with Stephanie, to try and make it something that we can do something very quickly and easily within practices. I know how pressured everyone is. So this is what we can do within practice. And what I like, for just as example, what I did with this is I just sat down with my deputy manager for 15 minutes. Literally took 15 minutes, I think, and we just went through all the bits on here and said, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do within our practice? So some of those things are about resources. And if you look at the bottom link, which is the Google Drive, that's the public health Google Drive. So everything that I think Anne talked about, the one pager plus all the different ones, the warm havens, everything, it's on there. It's in that one place. And this is also already on TeamNet anyway. And there's a few other important, another important link on there regarding support with prescription and health costs. And the other part of it is that training in culture. It's just like, I think for too long, healthcare has felt that, this is a social issue, but we know that the real impact on patients' health. So just being proactive about asking, and making sure that your staff are confident in asking about it. If not, there's training available again by Newham Council, and they will offer you bespoke training for your practice if that's what you think is needed or you want. So there's an email address to contact for that. And there's also some clinical training as well, which is not related to kind of the Newham Council, but a wider offer, which is at the bottom of that link. And if you're interested in that, there's only, I think there's about 2 more weeks on that to get involved. So any questions about it, just ask me, but it's all available on TeamNet, and I won't take up any more time. Thank you.
Thanks, Imana.
Just to add to the just to add to the training, so we've got 2 levels of training. We've got a kind of high level general information about food, fuel and finances run by the Social Welfare Alliance, and then, as Imana said, there's some really special, more detailed training that we're running now for particularly for staff who are going into residents' homes. And so there's a cost of living response email address, which I've stuck in the chat, and any requests you have or thoughts you have on cost of living, if you send them to that address, they get distributed to the kind of right place.
Thanks for that. Thank you. We'll send out the TeamNet, and thank you, Imana, as well, for your input. Right, so I think we just need to move on. Sorry, we're running really late. Thank you for that. And Karen, if you can make sure we send the team link, the TeamNet link, actually it's in the chat bar, isn't it? Right.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thanks, Imana. Bye. Bye.
Should we move on to infant feeding? Hi, Hazel.
Hello. I was hoping to get a chance to say hi to Anne as well. That was really lovely hearing, arriving to hear the tail end. And it's all going to blend in really well. Now, I recognise some faces in the room. Some of you, you're going to see these slides a second time, but that's no bad thing. We're going to repeat over some of the things. So I'm trying to get around as many of the GPs as we can. And I'm just going to pick on something that Anne was sharing about, a sort of bit about social prescribers, but also slides of GP surgeries for your screens. We're developing them for the libraries. It would be lovely if we could get just one slide. If you have capacity, please, it'd be lovely to have our baby feeding helpline, the baby feeding support services promoted from your screens. That would be amazing if that's possible. I have no idea who to talk to. So I'm Hazel Jones. I'm infant feeding lead for Newham Health Visiting and Children's Centres. I work within the council. My background is as a lactation consultant. Been practicing for about 20 years. And baby feeding is my thing. And what we're working on currently a lot of the time is our families who are in the contingency hotels in temporary accommodation, our migrants, asylum seekers with really considerable issues with feeding their babies. Some of them which are not as big issues as people imagine they are, because sometimes infant feeding can be a relatively straightforward thing to address, but there's a lot of commercial pressure around it. And that's one of the first things I'd like to talk to you about. It's something I'm dealing with a health visitor all the time, and that is the brands and that mothers need to know now more than they ever have done before. Parents need to know it doesn't matter which brand of formula they use. If their baby cannot be exclusively breastfed, the only things that really matter is a first stage milk. It's a first stage milk, and then it's safe preparation, cleaning, sterilised, safe preparation, and that doesn't have to be expensive kit. A bottle brush, hot water and washing up liquid, some kitchen towel, chemical cold water solution and a kettle. That's what she needs, and she needs tap water. We managed to stop an urgent delivery of bottled water going to one of our emergency hotels because the mothers were worried the tap water wasn't okay. Bottled water is usually too high in sodium. These are really vulnerable babies. We want parents to have the most basic information, which is the most important information about feeding their babies. Tap water, a kettle, clean sterile bottle, and then the stuff that rarely gets mentioned, with babies having bottles, responsive pace bottle feeding, baby uprights, bottle, semi-horizontal. This is all stuff that we cover in our antenatal workshops for parents. That's a little bit about bottle feeding. Much of the stuff that we start about is how to hold and attach babies for breastfeeding. And so I'm going to go through some slides. Is Steph with us?
Hi Hazel, yeah, I'm here. So you should hopefully be able to take control.
Oh, Steph, I'm so sorry. I was just whizzing back through your emails and you said, please send it the Tuesday before. I didn't. I sent it 20 minutes ago, didn't I? So very sorry. Next time I'll get it right. That's not the right one to share, but that was interesting. That was a link to some training that we are running. So we're running, I run training all the time, but there's a particular one that may be of interest to some of you here, which is, it's called Baby Feeding Matters in Newham. It's a 2-hour workshop running in January on Teams, and I'll pop the link in the chat when I've gone through the presentation. So that's me. I do apologise if you've seen these before, but it's worth a reminder. So I'm Hazel Jones. That's my direct number, but that's not the most important number. The most important number is going to come up in a moment, and it's for the baby feeding helpline. So we're working toward our UNICEF accreditation. There's 3 stages, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. We are at stage 2 and we're working towards our stage 3, and my aim is that Newham achieves gold within a couple of years. The background is baby friendly is robustly evidence-based for supporting breastfeeding, and where that's not possible, safe, responsive bottle feeding, and the timely introduction of nutritious, appropriate family foods, and wrapped around all of that, the importance of close and loving relationships throughout that 1,000 critical days. So it's about supporting parents and enabling them, empowering them so that they can feed their babies and enjoy it, and for the babies to thrive. We have our infant feeding policy, which is long, which our staff know where it is. I wouldn't say they've all read it, but it is there to back up and support their practice. Simple pathways so they know how to support families, what our priorities are, when we have additional concerns like, for instance, tongue tie or mastitis or concerns about baby's weight gain, that we've got those pathways in place. But this is the bit that I'm really trying to get out, especially this week, because we've just had 2 members of staff join the team this week, and it's so incredibly exciting. It's a tiny little service with a lot of power. It's fantastic. By power, I mean ability to reach and make a really big difference for mothers. The feedback is phenomenal, much better than I'd ever hoped. So it starts with text messages. That's not enough. Mothers need to hear the same consistent messages. It seems to be about 4 times before the message gets in that this is there for them. Not everybody has digital stuff, but most of them do. And it's an easy, convenient and clinically effective way for us to support mothers, especially with breastfeeding problems, and especially in the really critical early days, the first 5 to 7 days. We're not maternity, but we meet those mothers around about day 14, and we want to be in there earlier, helping them, because our partners at Newham Hospital do not have the resources and the capacity to help enough of the mums to breastfeed. We start with text messages antenatally. We invite mothers along to our antenatal workshops, and I really, really recommend, please ask you to tell mums about this. So you will be getting posters. I promised them back in October, I think. Haven't sent them out yet because we didn't have the additional staff in place to cope with an increase in calls. And we have now changed those posters so they're much more graphic. So it's really clear what they're about feeding babies with the QR codes on. They will be coming out in the new year to invite mothers to that antenatal workshop. They will benefit enormously from it, with some simple key messages to tool them up with the reality of what life is like feeding a young baby, and to remind them and get into their telephones the baby feeding helpline number, and knowing about our baby feeding cafes, and then later on introducing solids workshops. I'm there for any complex issues that there are. Is that a question?
Thanks, Hazel. So we can pass this information on to our kind of our nurses and our managers. Was there anything else you wanted primary care to do for feeding, just in the interest of time?
Yeah, it's literally share this number, share that number and the links so that we can get more of this, which is the excellent feedback from mothers about the quality of support that they've received, that we're using reliable evidence-based resources, stuff that you'd be familiar with, and using effective assessments so that we can support mothers with making informed decisions. So reminder of the Breastfeeding Network drugs fact sheets that are available, fantastic information about mastitis, the GP Infant Feeding Network, if you're not already aware of it, that there's e-learning for GPs from UNICEF, and we have our infant feeding section on the Health Visiting website. So that's a reminder of the leaflet. It's full of QR codes, and these posters will be coming out to you. And that is the number for the baby feeding helpline. I'll pop it in the chat in a minute. That's me, so I can close those. And I'm going to bring over the link to that upcoming workshop. If anybody would like to come along, you'd be really, really welcome. It's primarily aimed at partners in the food banks. That's who we're doing a lot more work with, the food banks, as well as some of the managers of the hotels. They're our target at the moment.
Thank you, Hazel, for that. We'll disseminate the information and pass it on to our nurses and the relevant staff. Thanks for that. And as Anna mentioned, we will keep promoting breastfeeding wherever possible. Thank you very much for that.
Thanks a lot. Thanks very much.
Right. See you then.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So move on to Dr. Sen. Do you want to give us a Strep A update? Tell us what's going on.
Thank you, Nadim. We have a 3 presentation, but we're not going to go to the 3 presentation. This one meant to be done by me and Sunita, but unfortunately, Sunita has got a severe cold and she's unable to really speak now. So what we'll do now, we'll send all the data set to you, so including the Sunita's one. But I just wanted to do about 10 slides on clinical and regulatory effort, how to manage a sick child. I'm not a pediatrician, I'm a general practice. I'm talking what is able to do in general practice and what GP can do in a general practice setting. So it's not meant to be for a highly intelligent specialist pediatrician, it's for the hardcore GP can manage everything. So what I wanted to do today, to prepare the practices, both the GPs and the practices, the GP as a clinician and practice as an organization to deal with this kind of crisis. We have, on this scale, I'm going to talk about the knowledge and skill GP needs to do it, how to keep the record keeping. Things might go wrong, so you might have to defend later if something goes wrong. Using appropriate diagnostics tool and record in appropriate metrics, what you're going to record, what coding you're going to use. Updating sepsis training in the practice, you must do it. You must do an interim sepsis training in the practice. You must update everybody's infection control. If things goes wrong, then you need to show that everybody updated, and then updating resuscitation training. Because remember, COVID is different. This is kids. We haven't done much about the pediatric during the COVID. This is purely about the peds. The oximeter is different. The oxygen is different. So I'm going to go through everything now. Now, it's very difficult to assess the child over the telephone and the video consultation. And I will really urge people, don't give telephone advice, don't give video consultation. You need to see the child, you need to feel the skin texture, you need to see the rash if needed, and you need to really make the parents confident that you have examined child properly and you are confident this child can go home. So you must remember that you need to bring the child in the room and you need to examine. So a GP should not work in isolation. No healthcare professional should work isolation. There must be a GP or a healthcare professional in the building all the time. You might not which child will turn up as a fitting child. We had it last week. We had a parent just bring the child, was fitting with the febrile conversion. Fortunately, my skilled 2 partners were there. They worked on A&E, they work in long-term experience, dealt very well, but there's no doctors in the 8 o'clock morning. The child, mother bring the child there. Really, this is a huge clinical incident. It should be a never event. Right, where is going now? Okay. Right, okay. So just we wanted to go to a bit of medical school training because we need to refresh, because remember, we haven't done this thing for a long time. As soon as the child comes, obviously you are going to do your book standard ABC. One thing I'm worried about, the online research training, that needs to stop now. Everybody has to have a hands-on experience on how to research a patient. In COVID time, the blue stream, other stream of everything, you streamed everything. Now you cannot stream. I do really urge GP to get back to practice. If you don't practice, you forget things. That is the way the life is. So if this child looks unwell and not really breathing, use the pulse oximetry to assess the oxygen saturation. Now, this is the bit you need to know, that which oxygen saturation you're going to do. Now, we have, during the COVID time, we have procured a lot of oximetry, but these are really adult pulse oximetry. These are not suitable for the child until unless this child weighs 30 kg or this child 10-year-old. Obviously, you are not going to weigh the child before your child is sick child. So obviously, you need to really prepare the 2 oximetry in the room or in the research trolley, one for the pediatric, one for the adult. So you make sure that you have really use the right tool for the right job. So what you need to do now, you have to clip the fingers with the child size clip. Remember, it's like research trolley. You have to have a defibrillator with the pad, the child pad, not for the adult pad. So you need to have a pulse oximetry with the clip that fit for the child's size. And then if you feel like that it's a fiddly, you can wrap with the tape. But remember, here is a transparent tape. The tape is not black, not blue, not any color. It has to be a transparent tape. Right. Okay. Use the pulse oximetry. There's a lot of guidance on the manufacturers, but the basic stuff that you must wash the child hands, because remember there's a lot of artifacts. It might be having crisps. Child might have a sandwich. Child might have something, nail polish, or they might was touching something that might discolor. To get an accurate, you must wash the child hand. At the same time, you make sure your hand is also clean. And if the child is very, very cold, obviously that is concern if the child is septic or something, but make sure the child is warm, so you can give a bit of warm by rubbing the hands. That might give you a bit of welcome to the child. Child might feel less fearful, child might feel more helpful doctors, so they might really cooperate better. Okay, their head should be at the waist level like this. Okay, the reason behind it that it to be resting, because if it is really on other surfaces, it does cause an artifact when you really take the pulse oximetry. Right. Okay. So what exactly do you going to get all these things? To be honestly, within probably a few hours time. So you must measure the middle or index finger, no other fingers. Okay, so you must, that is the most finger the evidence shows the child's oxygen saturation measure more accurately if you take it and middle finger. So now what is the right oxygen saturation for the child? Okay, this is the things that you need to know. This is the one that we worry about. As soon as you did the child oximetry, 95 to 90 times is acceptable. Up to 98 is fine if the child is breathing all right, and if the child doesn't look out, if the child can eye contact with you, if the child have a really good interaction, that's okay. But 90 to 95, no way. You must. As soon as the reception is seen, there's a sick child come, they should alert the whole team. It is not only one person's job, it's a whole team approach. Because the way we dealt with last week, this febrile convulsion, because my whole team was on the side and they really dealt very smartly, and I was very pleased that everything was in place. And make sure that as soon as reception is seen, the receptionist is sepsis training, receptionist is infection training. As soon as they say the father bringing doesn't sound right, they should do a major alert to the doctors, because remember, otherwise you'll be so helpless, you look really very unhelpful in front of the parents. And then if there's below 90, 92, don't really wait, call the 999. So what are you going to do when the ambulance is going to come? It might be 20 to 30 minutes, so you need to put the oxygen, isn't it? You need to do something. So let's see what we're going to do now. So, okay, so if you see there's the other signs of low oxygen saturation, this child could be blue tongues, you know, all the medical school learning we have done, severe difficulties, episodes of irregular stop breathing, the child might be unconscious, cannot walk, could be drowsy. So those are the other signs you can see, and you can teach your receptionist to really alert that if the child looks like that, can you bring attention to the doctors? Now, this is a story. 3 things must be in the practice. There is no mercy about that. Research training should be updated. There will be pulse oximetry. There should be benzyl penicillin and rectal diazepam. And also, please review the nasal surgery now, because there you remember we haven't done it for a long time. So if you don't do it, we forget. So oxygen mask with the prong, right size. Benzyl penicillin to the building. You don't know what you're going to see. You might see a meningitis patient. You might see different kind of rash, a septic child. So you must have the failure to act on this kind of emergency is not really a never event. It shouldn't be happen. And then rectal diazepam. Fortunately, we all had on the child came. Right. Okay. So how much oxygen you give to? We learned from COVID that we oversaturated people. We have caused people brain death. We have caused pulmonary fibrosis, giving over oxygen. So you need to give it the right amount of oxygen. Okay, under 2 years, 2 liters per minute. Now over 4 years, it should be over 2 years, it should be 4 liters and 1 liter for the neonate. So this is, you must really think about that, how much oxygen you're giving, because you don't want to have a toxic convulsion in your surgery. Now, medical record keeping, this is the most important. Things might go wrong, mate. After doing everything, something might go wrong. So what your medical record should look like when it goes to a litigation? You must put down, I saw the child, well hydrated, well perfused, child looks well oriented to verbal and non-verbal cues, good eye contact. This is the way you wanted to show the child's well-being. Things get wrong, but you have to have a proper assessment that time. When I saw the child looks like this. Walked with the balance and gait, so there's no problem with movement and balance posture. No obvious rashes. When you check a rashes from tip to toe, from the forehead, cheeks, everything, even you must also look on the back and the sacral area, so Hannes-Schondin purpura. It's very important to not miss those kind of signs and record properly. If something goes wrong, then you can defend yourself. Right. Okay. The other metrics are the pink blues and blue pleats, these kind of things, and you know about from the medical history. One thing I must tell: must record respiratory rate. There is no mercy. Must record pulse rate. Blood pressure. You suspect the patient. You should have a pediatric blood pressure machine. If you don't have it, buy the cuff and keep it ready. Because remember, failure to assess a sick child in a GP surgery is not really acceptable. And nobody can really tell, oh God, we never thought about that. If you're not, there's a lot of things you can learn through the YouTube. You just get yourself oriented, because there are things we don't do every day. So we've forgotten these things. Right. Okay. So you can also do this kind of things like observation, like tracheal tag. These are all read coded. These are all in the emails. You can find these things. Then finally auscultation, and then you record everything which you found. Remember what my guru used to tell, Stephen Covey: sharpen the saw, because we haven't done this for a long time. We've forgotten these things. Unless you do it, you are not going to get it better. So one thing I would advise everybody: there's a lot of YouTube video. I wish some kind of any other pediatrician can come to this talk and talk to us about this time and give more advice. So these are the things: the infection control, sepsis, pulse oximetry, oxygen cylinder full, research trolley ready. These kind of things you need. Practice nurses, managers, please listen to that. Doctors are busy, plus check every day. You've got enough oxygen cylinder. Your pulse oximetry has got 2 kinds. You've got nasal prongs are normal. So please, these things are very important. And also have a regular conversation with your chemist. Use the things properly so you don't run out things, because we have a regular meeting. We contact the chemist. They'll tell us, no, they told us why so much penicillin you're prescribing. So please make sure that you have a regular contact with the local provider, which is a multidisciplinary effort we all will go through if you work sensibly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything about antibiotics? That's really good clinically in terms of, when to call the ambulance and the oxygen. Fair enough. But in terms of antibiotics, using capsules, because I know we're running out of antibiotics locally, liquid. Does anyone have any kind of input? And also, Kavita, I know there's some kind of NEL training that might be coming out or webinar around it.
Yes, I think Karen can update. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Steph, can we just put the other slides up? So this is really just to confirm what people should have received. So you should have already had some information from Dr. Paul Galuli, who's the Chief Medical Officer in NEL. And in that, he put links to the variety of resources that are actually available and the links around prescribing information, Nadine. So that information came from the principal pharmacist at the London Medical Information Service. So I would encourage colleagues to follow that link and make sure that they're getting that information clearly. If you just move on a second, Steph, there's also in that slide deck from Dr. Paul Galuli some information that might be useful for patients and parents, just by way of sharing with those concerned parents around what's there. And Addy, I've seen you put your hand up. I know that Newham's got some resources. Anne has just sent those to me, and I'll make sure that they are included in the sharing out to GPs as well. And then finally, there are leaflets for parents that have been shared from NHS England that are available. So hopefully in the slide deck, the links, the leaflets and the variety of resources that NEL have shared out to colleagues. And Kavita might be able to update, but I know that the training hubs are looking at running a webinar session for the NEL system. I don't think a date's been set yet, but look out for it, I guess, because there'll be some information coming up.
At the moment, Karen, just to make sure that we get the right messages out and everything. So we'll get back to you on that. Thank you.
No, that makes sense. Addy?
Thanks. I've just seen the answer in the chat. We were wondering about that alternate advice about how to deal with solid doses and tips and hints, you know, the spoonful of sugar, etc. Going back to The Sound of Music. No, Mary Poppins. Thank you for that. I will share that, and we're briefing our elected members on Monday. So, thank you, everyone.
And what about swabs? Are we supposed to be doing swabs? Anyone know if we're supposed to be doing swabs, and if so, when? Or is that going to come on the NEL webinar? Rima?
Yeah, I think that's going to come on the NEL side. They're just looking into the criteria around swabs, so there's no guidance around it as yet. So I think all this information is obviously really useful in terms of recognising signs and symptoms, but I expect, you know, we are GPs. I think we're all clinically sound to be able to recognising a sick child. I think my concern that I just put in the chat was around, you know, the capacity for face-to-face appointments and making sure that we have that available, because we are going to have to bring more of these children in, even though we don't suspect that they have it, but it's more for reassurance of mothers because they are now attending A&E and obviously significant pressures there as well. So it's just, you know, so Cara, it'd be helpful just for you to mention
so if we just move on. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Steph. So yes, Rima, so commissioning colleagues have asked us to put on some additional capacity to support that need for face-to-face appointments. So Paula and the team have worked really hard just to get something up fast. So I believe this is rolling from Monday of next week, but in essence we will be offering additional capacity between 12 noon and 10 p.m. out of the Vicarage Lane service. This will only come off the 111 stream, so effectively parents ringing 111 and seeking support through that service will be given the opportunity to book face-to-face appointments between 12 noon and 10 p.m. Through this service, and the focus is obviously around children and young people with suspected strep A and RSV, but we hope that that will take some of the pressure out of general practice, and it will certainly take some of the pressure out of the UTC. And I know also the team, if we just move on to the next one, Steph, there are conversations happening with primary care networks around the potential to offer some additional appointments in the enhanced access service, and that will potentially take some of the pressure as well. But I recognise, Rima, there's still a lot of people coming through the doors.
Thanks, Karen. Yeah, so face-to-face issue, Rima's right in terms of there is a bit of an expectation, or more of an expectation for patients, because we manage patients, but we're also managing the parents and their expectations. Need some clarity around guided antibiotics and also around swabs, because we may start getting more requests for swabbing as well. And you know, the NHC offer will help the system a bit. Whether it'll help primary care, I'm not quite sure. But it is basically an issue of capacity and the mismatch between demand and supply, and those workforce issues. Tammy, if you can make just in the interest of time, just make it quite brief, please.
Yeah, no, just a quick question about this triage 111, because sometimes it can be really hit and miss. So if we're saying about any children with symptoms of strep A and RSV, I mean, that's any child with a cough and a fever potentially. So I'm just aware with the practices, we've obviously got our 111 slots, and it's just about how that service is going to be utilised so we don't waste those appointments, particularly earlier on in the day. So just wondered if we picked that up with that service, because obviously as primary care we won't be able to refer into it.
Yep, no, good point. Sunita?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't talk earlier. I'm just about losing my voice here. I just wanted to say to add, thank you, Dr. Sen, for delivering that presentation. Sorry if you can't hear me that well. I just wanted to add that some of the guidance that I've been reading is really important. If a child has had chicken pox in the last 2 weeks and they come with a sore throat, it's really important because they'll come under the immunocompromised. So really important to cover with antibiotics. We are reaching out to paediatricians to come and talk at future events very soon. So that will give us a lot more information on some of the queries that have been raised today. And the next thing I would say is that some more guidance came from the UK HSA stating that there's some resistance coming from some of the macrolide antibiotics. However, Pen-V has always been susceptible, so that can give us some information about when choosing antibiotics, even if they're tablets, and to follow that guidance from Dr. Healy.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sunita. Yes, it's just the antibiotics, what ones to use and what ones work, and also the liquid antibiotics. It's starting to run out in a lot of our pharmacies. I know they say there's no national shortage, but there are shortages locally in pharmacies, and there might be some somewhere, but it's not getting to where patients need it. Thanks for that. I think that webinar
to get more of a work stream webinar with pharmacies and public health and paediatricians.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we need to circulate any webinars, especially the NEL webinar, Kavita. That'd be great if we can get that circulated, and hopefully that'll be within the next week or so, Rima, maybe. Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks, Subir and Karen. Wax, you had a AOB.
Which one? Oh, did I have an AOB? Oh, it was about the phlebotomy.
Yeah,
I've learned from some practices that I haven't heard about the phlebotomy spec and contract and stuff that Miro had circulated. I don't know where the block kind of was in the system. So yeah, so if practices haven't seen that, maybe it's Karen and Jenny, who are they to contact?
So there was originally an expression of interest that went out, and it asked about interested to deliver the service, but also what might be wanted in terms of collection of the blood samples. And then as a result of those survey responses, we have sent out the service specification and contract to those PCNs who told us they were interested in delivering the service. So if there are PCNs or practices who feel that they didn't have an interest, then do let me know.
Okay, Hazel.
I think we are struggling. Thank you. We have set up with teething issues, and it's working fine in our practices, in our PCN. Only issue is the delivery of the samples, really, collection service. They are not coming. I think they are going through quite challenge, multiple practices, and I have to go a few times in Shrewsbury Road to drop it, and staffs are dropping it. So is there any way, I think Commissioner is looking at it, there is some issues with the capacity with this people courier service, but it's taking, in this winter time, it's taking quite a lot of time for us to go down there and to hand over all the samples.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'll pick that up, Sidle.
Yeah, we'll pick it up maybe in a transformation meeting. Is that okay? I think, Tammy, you know, come in very quickly because I think we're running.
I know we're really running late. I know, and just wanted to just quickly speak about some of the SIT reps and business continuity plans that we spoke about on Wednesday, and just to highlight the GP alert system, or GPAS. About practices alerting their difficulties with, you know, sort of workforce issues, but also sort of access. And so the slides will go out hopefully with the slide pack from NHC, and I think we need to bring it up and probably speak about it at Practice Council as well. But I'm really keen for Elliot Singer and Anna Amaya, who's the GPAS project manager, to be able to come to the Practice Manager Forum. But it's just about, you know, practices being aware that there is a system now, like the Opal system that the hospital has, to kind of to flag to the system the difficulties that they may be having, and that this will be rolling out. Yeah. So just that ask for practices, give us your contact details, but I mean, and we can talk about it some more. Thank you.
Fine. I think the system knows that each and every practice is struggling really, and there's a massive capacity issue, but thanks for that, Tammy. I think that probably it will draw the meeting to a close. It's our last meeting of the year, so have a good festive break, everyone. Have a well-deserved rest, and we'll see you all back next month in Jan. Take care. Bye.